Hi everyone, I hope you're well. We had a beautiful day here today at Altnabreac. Nice sunny day. Nice to finally get a bit of sun. We're quite thankful to have the sun because it gives us the majority of our energy through our solar panels. We've got our lithium LifePo 4 batteries topped up with the sun today, so we're very thankful of that. It's so much nicer to have a glimpse of spring in the air, and yeah, that's great. This video, everyone, is basically a follow-up video about the access agreement, the temporary access agreement that Network Rail had with Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited, the forestry company that own a lot of the land up here, mainly. Most of it, I think, is under the title CTH 3449. Also next to us, the title is CTH 5589. And that title conflicts with what Network Rail claim they own with their notice of title, their invalid title. The title that no one seems to want us to talk about, especially in court, but we're going to make a video about their invalid title, which our surveyor says is unsurveyable. But when I say our surveyor, the trolls call our surveyor a man with a stick. But if it's Network Rail surveyor, they call him a surveyor. So just on that note a little bit, so after I made the video last time about the temporary access agreement, the trolls have basically said that, oh, Network Rail, they said two things, okay? They're trying to say two things. They're trying to move the goalpost every time we put out some new evidence. The trolls have said Network Rail needed to access a different part of land here, and also they said that Network Rail wouldn't have been able to get their machinery in here because of the cattle grid and nowhere to park, nowhere to turn around. So they just make it up as they go along. So basically, the cattle grid here was most of the cattle grids were put in by the forestry company, the original one, not Caledonia Forest Land Investment. But the cattle grids are made to take a lot of weight. They're made to take 40-ton HGVs. We've had HGVs in here. They've had no problems turning around. There's absolutely loads of space for HGVs to turn around. It's never been an issue. They can actually go all the way around if they want to and do a big circle. So that's actually absolutely not the case at all. HGVs, telescopic handlers, tractors, trailers, they can come in here without any problem at all. They can come in, they can reverse back, turn around. There's absolutely no issue whatsoever for a HGV or any vehicles or trailers to park in here. So to think that Network Rail would just, bypass an option of using their driveway, which they claim, which it's not, it's our driveway, and not use it and just pay £5,000 of the public money just to use a piece of land that they didn't need to is absolutely ridiculous. So this is, also the troll said that it was a different piece of land that they needed to get to. Well, they needed to get to the station. The work was going to be done on the station, which was for the upgrade to the press to stop service. At the moment, when the station was open, people used to put their hands out and request the train to stop. But they were going to fit equipment in there that you pressed a button and it sent a signal to the train and let the driver know to stop, which is request to stop. Press to stop. So the thing is, one thing that the trolls seem to like to avoid is the big point that we want to make here is if Network Rail owned any land here at all, they would have some sort of burden on the forestry title, which they do not. They do not have any servitude right of access. They do not have any burden. That is why they were paying for temporary access. That's why they paid £5,000 in this specific agreement. So, the land that they needed to access. So they would have come in from the left down there, which leads in from Westerdale, which is basically the closest public road would have come in, and they would have come in on the left down there, and they could have come straight up this track here, which in the video actually, Matt O'Neill, his police car was parked right there, and they were claiming to own that piece of land we're looking at right now. If you look back at the video, he said that the legal team had said that they own up to where his car was. Well, that's actually owned by Caledonia Forest Land Investment under CTH 3449. So that's also incorrect. So they could have easily come through here with any HGV, any machines they needed. If they owned this driveway, they could have come onto it, brought all the machines. If they owned this land, they could have set up their compound, which is another point that needs to be taken into consideration. So, the land they needed to get to, the station, upgrade, all this space they would have had right here. All the work was meant to be taking place right here on the station. We're going to show you the letter that they sent to us initially, making us aware of the intended works. So it's obvious. This would have been the easiest way for them to access. Up through that track, and on this driveway, which they claim to own, which they do not, would have been the easiest option for them to take. Okay? It's just a no-brainer. They could have come up and reversed and dropped things off, brought the machines in. It would have been the easiest route to take. And they could have carried on with the works along here. But the thing is, you know, like Liz is going to mention, I think, she's going to mention they couldn't enforce the interdict against her because they don't own the station. They don't own the land here. They couldn't enforce the interdict. You see, there's a lot of points here that seem to be avoided, which are very important points. So we're just going to have a quick look now over towards the quarry. So the bit in front of us is where they were planning on putting the power station and the solar array. So they were going to put solar panels here and a power station that I guess would have been filled with lithium batteries or some sort of LiFePO 4 batteries or some sort of energy storage. You'll see that. I think it's mentioned on the letter we're going to show you in a while. So I think on the plan I'm going to show you, the map for the access agreement, I think it comes up to this point here. This point here is actually the old sidings. So that is what we're looking at right now. So we're just going to have a quick look over at the quarry just to see the entrance route here. So at the moment we are actually on Caledonia Forest Land Investment Land, title CTH 5589. That's where we're on at the moment. And this is all lumpy and it's uneven. And before, well, when Network Rail actually came here to do the work, it was rougher here. This has only recently been flattened out. QTS flattened all this out down here. All of this down here was rough and lumpy as anything. And you probably won't be able to see on this video how steep this is. This would have been so unsuitable to bring in any HGV lorries, it wouldn't be logical to bring it in this way at all. It's all lumpy in here. It's not flat at all. So this is, to begin with, they were going to put a compound down here. But then they changed the position. We've seen another map. I'm not sure if we've got a copy of that one. But they were going to put the compound back at where I just was. So there's the entrance to the quarry. So it wouldn't have been suitable to bring HGVs in here and bring the equipment in this way, really. It wouldn't make sense. I mean, if they did actually own the driveway, our driveway, it would have made much more sense just to come straight in there and go straight to the platform and do what they need to do. So I believe one of the images that we've seen on one of the plans, they were planning on putting the compound right here, and I think we noticed that it was crossing this track, and that's something that we wasn't very pleased with, because it was completely blocking the track. So that was on a different plan. So for some reason when one of the contractors came here, I addressed that with him, and he said it's the first time he's seen the plan that we had that showed the compound going down in the quarry. So that was a little bit strange. But anyway, I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to show you the route that they're planning on taking from that map. We're going to walk that map route. Okay, so this is part of the agreement. At the top it says this is Plan 2 referred to in the foregoing agreement between Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited and Network Rail Infrastructure Limited. Far North project. We will have a better look at this paperwork in a bit. I'll try and put some still images up for you to see. So to get this orientated properly, so it makes a bit more sense, I'm going to have to actually put this upside down. So there's the schoolhouse right in front of the camera. So if I just proceed down to the cattle grid here, as you can see, that's the old schoolhouse. Okay, so the old schoolhouse is right there, right in the centre of the frame right now. So I'm going to walk down the track that I'm on now and join onto the blue that you can see right in front of the camera. So schoolhouse on my right hand side, which is right there. Okay, so when we get to the bottom of this track, we'll be on the blue part of this map. So behind me, I've just walked down, there's a schoolhouse, just walked down the track. So this is the way all of the equipment, the lorries and vehicles would have come in. Back that way leads back to the image you've seen in the last video, where they're all piled up by what we call the front gate. Okay, so I'm just starting on the blue part of the outlined access agreement here, which is by my thumb. So I'm going to walk this now. Okay, so I'm walking along this piece here. Oh, sorry, gone out of focus there. Walking along this piece until we get to the bottom, and we're going to turn right. Okay. Just to show you the actual route of the access agreement. I hope you can see the sun is quite bright at the moment. It's very low in the sky. So we're just coming up here to the turning that goes to the right. So, as you can see here, zoom in on it a little bit, we're taking the turn to the right now. And then we're coming up on the quarry. So, we're coming along this piece now, up to the turning of the quarry. I mean, it's just absolutely makes no sense at all that they would have used this quarry, and I think that's why they abandoned it. That plan is because it's still filled with the old occupiers of station houses scrap. That's what the vans are, and the old taxi and the scrap and all the rubbish. So we're going in now. We're turning in on this turning right here into the quarry. Here we go. We're into the quarry. And all this in front of us here, you'd never set any compounds up on this. It's all soft. It's because it's all there's hundreds, if not 1,000 tyres under this. And fridges and freezers and all sorts of stuff, and you know, I dread to imagine what would happen if you started digging on this or tried to put anything of any weight on it. And this is where they're planning on putting their compound down here. It just, there's no way that would work out well, I don't think. You know, I'm not sure with all this scrap here and stuff, I think that on the map it actually shows that the compound was going to go here maybe. So the red square, it looks about halfway up maybe, well maybe not. Okay, so actually if we look a bit closer on the map, we can see, I don't know if you can see it with the camera, the little like road going in to where the little compound is. So that would have been this little road going in. So it's showing the compound areas being here. So that doesn't really seem very efficient, to be honest. And then, as we just seen from the other side, we'll just finish this last bit of the map. We'll just go up to the last bit. I don't know if you can see how steep this is on the video, but this just wouldn't be suitable at all for bringing any sort of heavy goods vehicles in, carrying any machines, or especially any sort of gravel or anything like that. If they own the driveway, it'd be a no-brainer. It'd be just reversing or driving through the driveway, and it'd be simple, the easiest solution. So, like I said, people need to think about that. If Network Rail owned any land here, why are they even having to pay an access agreement to come in at all? They would have a burden. they'd have some sort of servitude right of access, but they don't. It's because they don't own any land here at all. They certainly don't own our driveway, and they do not own the platform or the station. So here we are, just finishing the last bit of the temporary access agreement, and it ends pretty much right here. This bit is the little blue box bit at the end, which is right here. So we're going to move on now. We're going to have a look at the documents. We'll have a look at the actual access agreement. We'll look at that in the house.
Hi everyone, it's Liz here at Altnabreac. Okay, as Ian said, we're now going to go through the letter that we received from Network Rail in February 2023 relating to their planned works at Altnabreac Station. Before I go into the contents of the letter and explain that situation, I just think it's important just to clarify something for our followers and anybody new to our channel, to quell any misunderstanding about the nature of the dispute between us and Network Rail. The dispute is a dispute about the ownership of land. It is not a boundary dispute between us and Network Rail. It is a dispute about the ownership of land. Network Rail do not own any land at Altnabreac. They do not own our driveway. They do not own Altnabreac Station. They do not own the land upon which they've built the path. They do not own the private level crossing. They do not own any land at Altnabreac. We own the land, and that is the nature of the dispute. Now, we are going to cover in a video why Network Rail don't own any land at Altnabreac. I won't go into that now because there's a lot of information to share and to explain the legal position here. Okay, so I hope that's cleared that one up. Right, moving back into this letter. So we received this letter from Network Rail in February 2023. Now, the official land dispute between us and Network Rail, just a little background for you without going into too much detail, probably started around maybe the end of 2022. We moved in June 2021, but the official dispute probably started around the end of 2022. Anyway, we received this letter in 2023 from Network Rail explaining to us their plans to install the stop and request infrastructure at Altnabreac Station. Now, Ian's explained that already and what that involved. So they sent us this letter which explains that the plan was that it would be for five weeks and that they planned to access the station using land registered and owned by Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited, which is the forestry company that owns most of this estate. And this letter explains what they were planning to do and how long the works were going to take. When we received this letter, we wrote to Network Rail straight away and we explained that we were unhappy about the planned works because Network Rail do not own the station here and that they need our permission to do any work on the land here. We were always been open to work with Network Rail to try and work together, but it was very important that we made our legal position clear that we would not permit any work to go ahead until Network Rail had our permission to use our land. So letters were exchanged between us and Network Rail, and Network Rail were rejecting our claim. And what happened then, about 3 weeks later, I think it was March the 22nd, I was home alone at the time. Ian had got the train into Thurso to do some shopping, and it was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I looked through the kitchen window and I could see a multitude, a convoy of vehicles coming through. along the private forestry track at the end of where Ian walked to and showed you. And I knew that it was to do with the works at the station. And I can't count how many vehicles there were, but there was just a multitude of them. And I knew that they were heading to the Quarry area where Ian's already shown you on the video. So I went out to go and speak to a representative of Network Rail to explain the legal position and said to them that I've been in contact with Network Rail. There's an ongoing land dispute, and until that land dispute is resolved, no works can take place at the station. And I wasn't going to allow access onto our land. Network Rail that day had brought BTP along with them, and the officer and I had a conversation, and I explained that we were in communications with Network Rail by writing or in writing, and that it was an ongoing civil dispute, and that I was not going to allow Network Rail to come onto the land that they did not own and come onto our land, which was the station and some adjoining land that we own. Now, on that occasion, the BTP officer acted correctly, and he recognised that it was a civil dispute and he didn't have jurisdiction in that situation, and he advised Network Rail and their contractors to leave, and they did so. And Ian came home probably towards just before they left, but as we said on the other video, the story that was printed about us that's filled with false information about us chaining ourselves to the gate is just fabricated nonsense. Whoever wrote that news article could have easily verified the truth of that story by contacting us directly, and we could have given him the information about the BTP officer, and he could have contacted them, and they would have confirmed that nobody chained themselves to any gate, and that would have shut down that lie straight away. But unfortunately, the newspaper chose to print the lies instead about us. So that's what happened on that day, and all those vehicles were turned back. And they were turned back because they did not have a right to be on the land. And there was an ongoing dispute, and until that's resolved satisfactorily, then no progress could be made. And so that's obviously our version of what happened on that day. And as we said, that's something that needs to be resolved civilly. And now we're obviously at court, and it's for the court to decide on the true ownership of the land here. Okay, this document that you can see now on the video is a copy of the interdict that was served on me by Network Rail in April 2023. Now, this interdict came about a month after Network Rail and their contractors tried to gain access to Altnabreac station to install the stop request equipment. It was only me who was served with the interdict, and I was prevented in this interdict from stopping Network Rail and their contractors from accessing the land under which they had an access licence with Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited. So as we explained, they had an access agreement, which was a temporary one, with Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited to allow them temporary access onto their land to access the station. So this is what the interdict was preventing me from doing. It was to prevent Network Rail from accessing land owned by Caledonia Forest Land Investment Limited pertaining to the access agreement that they had. Now, this interdict was never enforced, and because they couldn't enforce it against me, because we weren't seeking to prevent Network Rail from accessing the land that they had an access agreement with Caledonia Forest. This access agreement didn't cover Altnabreac Station. Altnabreac Station is not owned by the forestry company, and it's not owned by Network Rail, it's owned by us. And it was on that basis that they couldn't enforce the interdict against me because Network Rail do not own the station. And I'd invite you to ask yourself this question. If Network Rail owned Altnabreac station, why didn't they go to court and amend the interdict? Or why didn't they seek another civil remedy to try and gain access to Altnabreac station if they owned it? They didn't pursue that avenue because they knew they couldn't, because they already know they don't own the station. So fast forward to September 2024, Network Rail decided instead to devise another plot, and this time they're now claiming falsely to own our driveway. So that's the position with the interdict. If anybody was wondering about this interdict, it was never enforced because they couldn't enforce it because they do not own Altnabreac station.
Okay everyone, so this is the actual document, page 1 of the Agreement for Temporary Access, Caledonia Forest, Land Investment Limited, Network Rail. I would suggest that you go into full screen if you want to read this more easily. I'm going to slowly scroll down through each page. So if I go too fast, you'll just have to pause it. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down. And also, I do apologise. Earlier on in the video, I did make a mistake. I said £5,000, but it's actually £3,000 plus any additional days on top at £750 per week. Page 2. So just scroll down. Here's the signed agreement. Okay, and this is the Network Rail letter that we received. On the back, you wouldn't believe the amount of vehicles that turned up here. I think there was maybe 50 or even more vehicles that were all piled up outside the gate. And they've got these little boxes here. Noise impact, green, low, medium, low, low, low. What a load of nonsense. You should have seen the amount of machinery that turned up. So then we got the image of the quarry. Just do a bit of a zoom in there for you. Okay, and then the map, which we've all seen. Not too sure about what all this is here. See if we can. Sorry about the shadow, but it's just how it is. Also, just in addition to this video, as a lot of you are aware, probably waiting for an update. Yes, we have been into the third court hearing now to do with the land dispute. We will be making a video with an update. So we'll try and get that together as soon as possible. And if I could please ask you to like this video and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much and all the best to you all. Thank you. Goodbye.